Yeah, so you can do, for this one, you can do any environment you want as far as property or anything like that. The idea is that we just have something where you could navigate around. Okay, so this is the part I went over last time. I'm going to do a quick recap and then get into it. So your first step, take your drawing into Illustrator and then start laying out your house walls or your apartment walls or whatever it is. So whatever thickness you have, consistent thickness throughout. Okay. If you wanted to do like the exterior is thicker than the interior, that's fine too. For what we're doing, it's not going to matter too much. Make sure any openings that you have are consistently sized. So all the door openings and the window openings, they kind of match. All the windows are the same size unless there's like a bay window here and then a small window there. The easier it is for you to just make one door and clone it into other areas, the easier your life is going to be when you have to do multiple doors. You don't have to make new doors for each area. Same thing with windows. All right, so once you have it done here, you'll make sure that you have shapes. Okay, so I can't have paths. If I were to draw something like this, and I gave that thickness, even though this looks very similar to that, this is a path, so Maya will bring in just the path itself. It won't bring the whole like shape in, and I need the whole shape. So I need to make sure that whatever I do, outline stroke, that I have the actual like the path that's on this side of the wall and that side of the wall. Okay. So you save this as, I'm just going to give it a name that I can just delete later, delete. Make sure you save it as Illustrator 8. Maya will not recognize anything above it. Any other programs typically will not read anything above Illustrator 8. Hit OK. And then when you go into Maya, you'll go to Create, Illustrator Object, Option Box. Make sure it says Curves. And then I went to my source images and I found my image, brought it in. Now this came in as this. Okay, it wasn't this size. It was originally not rotated and scaled up to 1. So I went through and I deleted this big box around it. And then I grabbed all the curves. And then I rotated it 90 degrees. And then I scaled it up to 835. Now the spot that I got 835 from, once this is done calculating or crashing, whichever it's going to do first, it's crashing, there we go, is I remember created a shape that I knew was, this is how big a hallway was. And so I lined up my hallway to make sure that that hallway fit the same size. So we'll get to watch this again. And this is one of those things where sometimes it's just too complicated for Maya, and it's not that it's too complicated, it just freaks out. Let me set my project to 2520. Just a lot of stuff going on with it, so it just has issues. And layout, there it is. All right, so I delete the background. I'm going to grab my whole group. I'm going to rotate it 90 degrees. I'm going to delete that background, another one. I'm going to center pivot it. I'm going to put the thing here. And I already know it's 835, so I'll scale it up to 835. Okay, now because it's so big, as I zoom out, you'll see how it's cut off. So I'm going to go to my camera, so I select the camera, change the far clipping plane to like 2 more zeros in the middle of this, and change the near clipping plane to like 100. And that's basically what cuts things off. Your camera only has like a starting point and an ending point. The start point is pretty close. The end point is pretty far away, but still, as you get bigger stuff, you'll hit that spot even here where it just cuts off. All right, so there's my stuff. I can verify the size of this by making a cube, and I believe I closed my windows. What happened? There we go. So it's 9 feet in centimeters, 274. I'm going to make a cube that's 274. I'm going to put it where that is, right over here. And this hallway here is about 9 feet. So you see that that fits pretty close to 9 feet right there. So that's 9 feet. This will become important, obviously, because our character will need to walk through the hallway. So if the halls are not big enough, he just literally will not fit. Same thing with doors. If the doors aren't big enough, he won't fit. We may even need to scale it up a little bit bigger just to verify, because the scale in the game may be slightly bigger than the scale in real life. We'll see. All right, so I rotated it, scaled it 835. Your number will be different depending on how it comes in from Illustrator. Now I need to grab all my curves. Actually, I should probably save. Let's do that. So I'll put this into my scenes folder and environment. I don't know why I said save, but whatever. I'm going to go to extrude, and I want to use a distance extrude. That will take all my curves and just pull them up so I'll have a wall there. I need these to be 10 feet. So if I go here and type in 10 feet, that's 304 centimeters. So I'll type in 304. I will also specify a direction. I want these to go in the Y direction so they go straight up, not like off to the side. I also want these to be polygon, and I want these to be quads and general. Per span 1, per span 1. Okay, so now what do these do? So obviously this is just how far it's extruding it, and the direction extrudes it. Okay, 304 up. Down here we're converting it to polygons. When you take something into a video game, it has to be polygons. So we need polygons. This tessellation method is how it's converting the NURBS, which is the default shape it'll create, into a polygon shape. So general is a quick way for us to basically just get one division going straight up and one division between each point. So it's a quick way for us to get as few divisions as possible, like that, okay? And then this is just how it's putting in those things. I'll show in a second just how we can tweak those. Some of these things like this, in this case, will not do anything. That's there for other controls. So now I hit tessellate, or extrude, and there it is. So now anytime we deal with gaming, it's all about optimizing. The fewer polygons we bring into the game, the better it's going to be, the faster it's going to move. If I go to my tessellation for this, okay, so there's my extrude. It does the extrude. Here's the size of it if I need to adjust it. Here's the tessellate. If I go to my advanced tessellation, here's where I chose quad. So if you look at triangles, that's what triangles looks like. There's quads. If I change this to count, you see how it adds extra divisions in the middle. If I change this to fit, there's another one in the middle, but look over here, there's a bunch. And then if you look over here, it's like a bunch of weird ones. If you go to CVs, it does that, which is similar to general. And then underneath each one of these areas, that's where you can specify more settings for each one of those. So under the general section, I can increase the number of divisions this way, or I can increase the number of divisions that way, okay? So I know that at one point, this building here, there's a stripe that goes straight down the middle of the wall, like it's a blue stripe. So when I get to that point, all I have to do is go like that, and now I have the stripe in the middle of the wall, okay? So that'll be easier when I get to it. For now, I'm just gonna leave it. So typically I'll do quads general, per span 1, every time I do one of these operations. Okay, some of these come in as black. Okay, you can see there's a definite difference in color here versus there. These ones, depending on how I drew the shapes in Illustrator or how Illustrator decided to draw the shapes, it may have drawn it clockwise or counterclockwise, and that will dictate which is the outside or inside. So I'm going to go and grab all of these shapes that are not the gray color because they're inside out. And a couple over here. And I'm going to go to Mesh Display and say Reverse. So now they're right side out, or right side in. Cool. All right, so now I'm going to take all this. I'm going to delete the history. And then I'm going to export this out. Okay, you'll export this out bring it in, test it out, see if it works. It may not work, you'll come back, export it out again after you've tweaked some things, and go back and forth. If this part doesn't work out, then we shouldn't go any further because everything we build for it is based off of this model. When we build the doors, we build them in this file, bring them into Unreal, okay? We want to have as little work between one and the other as possible, okay? So I'm going to save this level 2. Okay, so I save it as an FBX level 2, and now I'm going to go into Unreal. On these computers in the room, there is a 423 version, I believe. That one works on these fine. On my laptop, it doesn't. I have to figure out why. The process is going to be nearly identical from one version to the other. There's nothing crazy, okay? So you would hit launch. It'll bring up this window, which is basically like, what kind of game do you want to make? In Unreal, you can make any kind of game. It's pretty sweet. First person, flying, handheld, AR, puzzle, rolling, side scroller, 2D side scroller, third person, top down, whatever. I prefer for this type of thing a third person. You can specify where it's going to be. Desktop console is perfect. Maximum quality is good. And then with or without starter content. I don't need any of the starter content. I'm just going to leave it without. Then it wants to know where I want to put this. So I'm going to save this into my folder. So I'm going to say RST building. And then I'm going to put this in the same folder as the rest of my stuff. That way everything is kind of packaged together. So here's my environment. I'm going to say select. Then I hit create. Now this process is going to take basically everything we need for a game to run and put it inside that folder. So our folder size has just gone up probably by a gig, okay? If I go into my folder here on the P drive, and 2520, and yes, get to it in a second. Go to my environment, you'll see, okay, not as gig as much as I thought, but it is a lot. Okay, so 70 megabytes, and here's RST building, and here's a bunch of files. Okay, so this folder, that's our game. Everything else is stuff for Maya. So whenever we back our stuff up, just be aware of that. All right, so here's our game. We have done nothing yet. All we've done is made a blank world. If I hit play, I can use, if you guys have played video games, WASD is your walking, and then the mouse moving around is your way to turn the camera. And spacebar is a jump. Okay, so that's why I like this guy, because I can see exactly where he's at. And if there's a spot that he can't fit through, it's very obvious. If you're dealing with a one-person, a first-person shooter, you can't see where the character fits. Okay, so I'm going to hit escape. I'm going to zoom out. The controls for zooming and rotating and all that are the same as Maya's. Right, so there shouldn't be any like crazy translation there. However you want to add your world to this one is fine. Some people like to just delete all the stuff that's there and then add their world right on top of it. I think it's kind of neat to have this as my starter world and have him like jump into that world. So that way, this is like my testing area, and then the world, like my actual world, is out here. So I'm going to go to import, and then I'm going to go find my piece of geometry. Okay. I'm not going to import it yet. I'm just going to show you that I can do this. RST building. Oops. Scenes. Okay, so here is my level 2. Now if I were to import this, Unreal is going to create its own folder location, files for all this stuff. It doesn't always do a perfect job, especially if you really develop this. Think about just inside this room, we have monitors, we have computers, we have desks, we have chairs, we have stuff on the wall, we have lights, we have ceilings, all this stuff that could go into this, and expand that by an entire building, right? It's a lot of stuff, a lot of materials, a lot of objects. We want to stay organized. So the best way to do that is to not let the software do that for you. The best way to do it is to just start organizing your stuff yourself. So I can import through Unreal, but the way I should be doing this is going into my game, going into content, going into geometry, and then here's where I'm going to start to build all of my folders that will help me stay organized. So think of it, however you want to organize yourself is up to you. You can do it by items. So I could say electronics is in one folder, Structures are another folder, so like doors and walls, however you want to. So I'm going to make a new folder here, and I'm going to call this structure. And then in this folder, I'll create a textures and a models. Okay, and I'll kind of mimic that same folder structure for all of my areas. So I'm going to go and drop my model into that folder. So scenes, level 2, drop it in there. All right, so now I can go here, and if I wait a second, there it is. The second you drop a model into your scene, it'll say, hey, it looks like you've imported something into your folder. Do you want to bring it into your Unreal folder? And I say, yes. Now, this is not importing it into any other Unreal folder. All it's doing is linking it to Unreal, okay? Inside here, this is basic input stuff that is just like, what do you want to scale it up? Do you want to translate it? We should be, our goal is to get it so that everything we bring in, we don't have to do anything fancy to it. It just like drops in, okay? So if I had to scale this up, let's say double the size, everything I brought in, I would have to double the size for. So it makes more sense right now to double the size in Maya and then export it out, and then everything is just standard size, okay? So I'm going to hit import. It's going to process the files. Usually you'll get an error. That's fine. We'll just close it. And then inside these folders down here, that's where all of my stuff lies. So this folder structure in this area is the folder structure that's out here. So I'm just going to go back to content. Here's that geometry folder. Here's that structures folder. Here's the models. And then here are all my things, okay? Now, what Maya did is it exported out every single piece as a separate piece. So I don't want to do that because, holy cow, if I tried to place all this stuff back where it was, so I'm going to delete all these. Yes. And I'll delete Lambert 1, I don't need that. And then I'm going to jump back into Maya, and then I'm going to go to Mesh, because all these pieces are separate, and I'm going to say Combine. And then I'm going to delete History, and so now Maya, or Unreal will read this as one geometry, not a million pieces. So now I'll export this out again. I'm going to drop it right into my folder. Okay, so I don't need to export it then copy it. I can just go right into my geometry folder, and then say building structure. There are settings over here too, so you can always double check those. Some things you don't need. I don't need animation, so why even export it out? I think everything else should be good. I don't need cameras or lights. Those are already off. My unit should be fine. There you go. Okay. So now I wait a second. Yes, import it. Yes, import all. Yes, close it. And there it is. Okay, one file and then one material. The material will always come in, but one file. So now if I drop this out here, there's my environment. So now let me get this oriented correctly so I can see it. All right, so this is where I want to put that. Okay, so this is going to go here. And that's going to go there. When I did this before, it took me like 2 or 3 attempts to make sure that it landed correctly so that he could actually get into the building. Otherwise, it just didn't work. All right, so that should be good. Now I'm going to create a basic, just for now, a basic cube or plane. Because I need, obviously, something for this to, come on, plane. For this to actually walk on. If there's no plane, my guy will just fall right through the ground. You just hit escape and then you move it. So I moved all those X, Y, Z's to 0 so that I could then position this. There we go. And then the same thing with your move, rotates, and scales. They're all set up to Maya stuff. So your rotates, your scales, everything is just still set up. It's one of the reasons I like Unreal, because it's very easy to go from one software to the next. The other thing it's odd is that they don't move, like as I'm rotating or scaling, it doesn't like update that. There we go. All right, I'm gonna go underneath. Oops, not underneath, I'm gonna go to the side. Just pull it down just a little bit. There we go. And we'll scoot this over. All right, so let's play the game again. Oh, crap. All right, I didn't make a way for him to get out of there. I did it again. So I'm just going to make a cube real quick. And then that should allow him to climb up and get out of there. Oops. Come on. And just in case, I'll make a smaller one. All right, so now let's try that again. Play. And then it gives me an indicator, obviously, as to which direction you should be jumping out. Oh, so close. Let's duplicate this again. I'm using Alt and just dragging. Now once I get more kind of comfortable with the world, have things sized up, then I typically do put him to start actually in the world. I always think this is kind of neat, like, hey, there's my world. Now you'll notice right away he's kind of floating. So let's fix that. I'm going to double click this piece of geometry down here. And there's settings for this. So things like our texture, collisions, dynamics, breaking things, whatever, that's all inside here. Right now we have this basically like a shell around it where it's colliding with the top of it and the bottom of it. So I have to go to my collisions. Big on material, where are my collisions at? There they are. If I hit simple collisions, this is what my simple collisions look like. Okay, so you can see where it's just cutting it off right at the top. If I go to my complex collisions, it's colliding with each wall as a separate piece. Okay, so I have to tell the software over here, collision shape, there we go, use complex shape as simple. So now when I go to simple, you'll see that simple and complex are basically the same thing. I save it, I close it, and then we play it again. And now he's in the world. And then I can verify, hey, this is working. He's actually able to get into the rooms. And then I can see, maybe my scale doesn't feel right. I don't know which room that is. That's S. Yeah, he came into S lobby. Yeah, so this is where we started. This is S lobby. This is where Autumn used to work. And then if we make a right, and then we go right inside here. This is the hallway outside our classroom, and there's in the classroom. No, he's not there. You expect him to be there, right? So this feels, even though it's the correct size, right? Like he fits through the door, it still feels maybe kind of claustrophobic, right? So I'm going to go into Maya and just scale this up a bit. Oops. So I'm going to make this, when I combined it, it makes a brand new shape. So my 8.33 whatever is gone. So I want to make this maybe 1.5. I can hide these curves. I don't need those at the moment. Maybe 1.5 is a bit too much. Maybe 1.25. There we go. Now I'm going to export this again. Now it sucks to have to keep going back to export, back to export, back to export. So Maya includes this game exporter. Okay. Sometimes it works great. Sometimes it doesn't work, but we'll give it a go and see. The cool thing about this is that I can specify my directory and say exactly where I want all my stuff to go. Content, geometry, structure, models. Oops. Go back one folder, say models, there we go. And then I give this a name down here. So I believe I called that building structure. Okay. I hit export. Yes, I want to replace it. I go back to Unreal. And oops, let me hit import again. And then you'll see that it imports and basically puts it in the exact same spot. Okay, now it's 1.5 times bigger, so it moves it over. That's no big deal. I'll just scoot it off to the side. Make sure I grab the right piece of geometry. There we go. And then I'll play it again. Okay, this feels more like S-Lobby. I walk down here. That's the hallway. This is that cubby. It still feels kind of tight. I may want to make that just a bit bigger. And that's our room. That's the door back there. Yeah, so I definitely will want to make that just a bit bigger still. So maybe I will go to 1.5. And then watch. Export, yes. Jump back to Unreal. Import. And I could say don't show again. It'll automatically not show it again. And I'm keeping in mind, too, other stuff I may want to add. In this hallway specifically, right here, there's that big bookcase thing that comes out, like extrudes into the hallway. If my hallways are too narrow and I add that in there, well, now it doesn't fit, right? Same thing here. There's like stuff on the walls, not too much, but there is stuff on the walls there. This is that small Mac lab. That feels good. This feels good here. This is our room. Yep, that definitely works. Whoa, I want to go there. Oh, you asked, so there we go. It just goes, and then you hit escape, and then you can start it back over again. Okay? So once I know all of this sizing is correct, let me just throw this over here, then I can basically lock this in. So I'll make this on a new layer. I'll hit reference on here, and now I can start building stuff. So typically I like to go through and build doors, windows, that kind of thing first. I may need to do some tweaking to my model. Let me unreference that. On this specific one, I don't have the windows cut in yet, so I definitely want to cut the windows in. I may want to add, in some cases, the door like goes across like this. So I may want to add that in there so the door goes across. So if I do, I would insert an edge loop. Figure out how far down I want to go, and then I would just do a bridge. And some of these processes, depending on how big your environment is, could take a long time. So I just bridge those two faces, and there it is. There we go. Here's another one. This one doesn't have it on this side, so I would need to, oops. Come on. Insert edge loops. I need to make sure this and this are at the same height, so that's where my snapping will come in. I'll grab the green arrow, hold down V, and then middle click, and now it snaps. These two here should be bridged, and so on. So I would go through all of my areas where I need that cover, and put that in there. If I'm ready to start modeling other stuff, let's say I'm ready to start modeling a door, I'll create a cube. I'll use this area here because that's a door area. I'm going to bring my cube over somehow. There we go. And scale it up. Scale it in. So you'll see I use my snapping a lot because I want things just to, if I'm modeling it here, I want it to jump over here. And this might be a good way, too, to look at it. Typically, doors are about 8 feet tall. So 243. Wow. And typically they're like 36 inches wide, which is 3 feet, 91.44. So that's how big my door typically should be. Now, because I scaled it up 1.5 times, obviously that's not going to be a perfect size. So I'm just going to freeze my transforms and then scale this up 1.5. There we go. So that's pretty close. Pretty close. I may want to make a door jamb. If you look at these doors, they have a door jamb on them, right, going around. I'm going to duplicate this. I'm going to isolate it, and I'm going to delete the middle stuffs. Then if I grab this and just extrude, then I can just pull that out. Nope. I can go to thickness. Yes, there we go. And now I have an actual thickness to this that I could then go and start tweaking to give it more of a door jamb kind of look. Anytime we're lining up stuff, Unreal will help us snap right to edges, okay? So if we can make these edges already like linked together, it makes it easier. So I'm going to grab this face here. Whoops. There. Nope, there. I'm going to go to my Move tool, and I'm going to snap it to, whoops. I'm going to snap it to that. So I snapped it right to that point. I'll do the same thing on this side. Click that one, hold down V, snap, there it goes. Grab this one, hold down V, snap. So now it's snapped to all 4 of those pieces. I think I'm going to grab these. Just scoot that down some, which means that my door also needs to be scooted down so that it fits. There we go. And like I said, we always want to optimize our stuff. So there's a lot of faces in here that I don't need. These are lined up perfectly with the wall, how it comes in. So I would delete those. And then I would go into here if I want to fancy this up some. And I can grab that and just give this a little extrusion there. So now I have a little bit of fanciness on there. Probably extruded it a little bit too far. There we go. That's good. And I'll do the same thing here. And the main reason for optimizing this is imagine how many doors we're going to have. Well, how many doors you could have in your scene. All of that geometry, the idea is that our stuff will calculate in real time. So the faster our geometry is, the better off that we'll be able to have that. Okay, so now there's my door jamb. I would go through and also maybe model in a handle, keeping it low res. Don't model anything high res. If you had 1,000 divisions, if you just grabbed a cube, or a, oops, I don't want that. If you just went and grabbed a sphere, and we snapped it over here somewhere, there it is. You can see how many divisions this is. This is about 760 triangles, or exactly 760 triangles. And you multiply that by how many doors I would have in my room or my building, that's a lot of triangles, a lot of geometry. Typically, for a door handle, I would have something like this, if that many. Okay, that's only 60. Now that looks really chunky, but we have the ability to go to Mesh Display and soften, and now it'll look a little bit smoother. Okay, and maybe I can get rid of part of this by deleting maybe the back faces. And that's obviously huge. Shrink that down. Okay, and then so maybe I can add a couple more. So I've already minimized it some. Oops, there we go. So now I'm back to 60, but now it looks a lot smoother. And then I could say, stuff always gets in the way. Come on. Oh, this is that near clipping plane doing that. So I need to go back into here and set this to maybe not 100, maybe 10 would do it. There we go. Maybe I don't need this one. I probably do, but we'll see. Yes, I do. Okay. And I could probably flatten that too and push this in. I don't need the part that goes inside the door because you're not going to see that part. As long as I have something here, you'll get the idea that there's some kind of door handle there, right? I don't have to have the actual part that would attach to the door. Okay, and eventually I'll make sure that these are all at the same height, appropriate height. Cool. Okay, so your first step is to go into Illustrator. Where's Illustrator? There it is. Lay out your stuff. Bring your curves into Maya. Create your basic shape. Bring that into Unreal. Verify that it's the right size. And then you can start going through and tweaking the shapes of your walls and then starting to build your geometry on top of it. But again, keep everything super light, okay? Questions on where we're going with that?